Are you going to bed each day absolutely exhausted, maybe getting a good amount of sleep, but still waking up tired? Or maybe you feel like sometimes that you are working hard, but have no idea how you're going to have the energy for the next day. Well, if that's the case, you are going to love our guest today. Please welcome Dr. Erik Korem. Erik is an expert in sleep and stress resilience, and he's the founder of and CEO of AIM7, a wellness app that is able to improve the outcomes of programs and workouts that you already love. Please welcome our guest, Erik Korem. All right, so Erik introduced sports science and athlete tracking technologies to collegiate and professional NFL over a decade ago, and has worked with the National Football League, Power 5 NCAA programs, gold medal Olympians, Nike, and the United States Department of Defense, and won an ACC championship at Florida State University, coaching 2 Olympic gold medalists. Thank you, Erik, for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan.
Quite the resume, my friend. Well, I'm very excited because I think in my industry, we're blowing and going all the time, and we work with a lot of people in the same realm. And I see that we're constantly on the verge of burnout and tired and just going from day to day to day. I feel that way sometimes, and having my conversation with you, I'm always like, man, I really need to lean in this way more. So I'm excited to just sit for a minute and kind of talk that through. So starting off, what I'd love for you to do is kind of take us back to where this kind of idea started of performance and helping people with their performance, energy specifically, and then how you kind of got to where you're at today.
Yeah. So thanks, Ryan, first of all, for having me on. My curiosity began as an athlete myself that was just, I was a good high school athlete, but went to college as a walk-on. There was a big difference between me and everybody else. And I was at Texas A&M, which is at the time was Gig 'em, man. Yeah. We're coming back, baby.
That's right.
And had 9 guys go in the first 3 rounds of the draft out of that class. And so there was like, okay, there's a difference between me and the guy in front of me. So it really led me down this rabbit hole of like, how do I improve performance? And I was fortunate enough when I went to University of Arkansas for grad school to get involved with a number of Olympic caliber sprinters, and got to travel the world for about 14 years training pro athletes. And I got to see how the rest of the world was training athletes. And they had these systems called high performance systems, where everybody that was touching the athlete, from the coach, they had physical therapy, to the biomechanist, to the physiologist, everything was unified, because in the United States, we have a problem with athletes. We have too many good ones.
That's right.
And so like we don't have to like do every single thing we can to get the most out of them. Like, you go to a country like Australia, in 1978, I think they won 3 medals. It was horrible. And they were like, we're done. This is terrible. So they went back and developed these institutes of sport. And by that, from 1978 to 2000, they went from I think it was 58th in the world in medal count to top 3. Population didn't change. What did they do? They leveraged every single component of performance and improved every single one of those very strategically. So I decided I'm going to bring this methodology to the U.S. And it started with using athlete tracking technology, like we discussed, like you mentioned in the opening, when I was at Florida State about 2011. Nobody was tracking athletes in games. So imagine like nobody had ever worn a Fitbit or an Apple Watch before. Nobody really knew what went on in a football game. And I had to literally hire a NASA propulsion engineer to help us I
knew what that was.
Yeah. I had to figure it out pretty quick. We had all this data, and we're like, how do we use this data to improve performance? And after stubbing our toe a lot, we finally realized that like first of all, data with that insight is completely useless, right? You can get all this data from your Apple Watch about how much you sleep and do this or that. And you're like, but if I don't know what to do with it, it's worthless, right? We were able to figure out how to use that data to improve performance and reduce injuries. And in one season, we had an 88% reduction in injury. And our team went from a 9-win team to winning an ACC championship, an Orange Bowl, and then they want to win a national title.
And that was at Florida State?
Florida State under Jimbo Fisher, and he deserved a lot of credit for that. And it ended up opening a $1 billion market in the U.S. for sports wearables and data. So I went on to University of Kentucky, where I was the high performance director.
And at Florida State, so that was wearables were happening at that point, or you were just tracking? We
introduced it. I literally brought 12 devices from Australia. Okay. They did not exist in the U.S. The NFL flew in after the 2012 season. Like, what are you doing here? And they adopted the technology. That's why, have you ever seen an NFL game and they're like, oh, so-and-so's running 20 miles an hour. That's the technology.
Huh. Wow.
And so it proliferated across college sports, NFL, everywhere. So I went to Kentucky with Mark Stoops, and he named me the high performance director. So I finally had that role. Well, I decided, you know what? I want to get a doctoral degree. But and I was like, okay, if I'm going to study and I'm going to get a doctoral degree, I want to study something that's critically important to living and thriving. And there's 3 things you can't live without: water, food, and sleep. I was like, I want to understand sleep and how it impacts our ability to adapt. And this is the answer to your question here. Because what I found is the best athletes in the world, you could literally crush them in the training environment and they would come back the next day, because we can measure their these biometrics of how they were adapting, and they would be just the same. And I realized that the faster you adapt, the more you can handle with less cost. And so we learned, basically, we were able to measure certain brain waves, and we learned how much sleep you need to optimally adapt to stress. So that is the key to this energy level piece you're talking about, is you need to build more adaptability. So you can't manage stress, Ryan.
I agree.
Stress is going to happen.
Right.
The market's going to change. Family situations are going to happen. It's going to happen, sticky situations with your in-laws or whatever. Life is going to come at you. What you can do, though, is build adaptive capacity, or the ability to handle more or do more with less cost. And there's 5 things that impact your ability to adapt to more stress. It's sleep, exercise, nutrition, something called psychological flexibility, and your ability to foster and maintain healthy relationships. The scientific literature is very clear that all 5 of these things impact your ability to adapt or be more resilient, but also they directly impact the most preventable disease states in America, which account for $4 trillion in annual spending, 20% of our GDP: cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, even some cognitive degeneration. That is the key. And it sounds real simple, like, okay, great, Eric's telling me the same thing I know. But there's a lot of simple things that people just aren't doing, that if they could bake them into their lives, I'm talking very simple practices that can dramatically impact your ability to perform on the job on a daily basis. Because high performance is this: being at your best with minimal perturbations from your best. Like Steph Curry right now, I don't know when this is going to air, but NBA finals are going on. Sprained his ankle, came back, and he dropped 40 points.
Yes.
Yeah. The reason Steph is so good is his peak performance is, let's say, up here, but he has a minimal perturbation from that. A down day is maybe 5-point drop off.
Right.
That's what you need. If you're going to go out and you're going to meet with a client or potential customer, you need to be on your A game. And you can't have these wild fluctuations in your ability to focus, concentrate, make decisions, ask good questions.
Well, before you get into business professional, they're highly driven. Mm-hmm. And I would say the majority of people that I work with, especially real estate agents, we have so many different plates spinning all the same time, Monday through Friday, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so trying to figure out when's off time, how much it's just sometimes you're, and it shouldn't be this way. You're not at your client's beck and call, but you kind of are, if you're going to be good to a certain point. Yeah. But before I get into all of that, because I would love to be able to give people just, hey, what are some baby steps to start working toward becoming more high performing in a healthy way? Mm-hmm. But when was the point where you were you've had this great career, and what was your doctorate in again? It was in exercise science, but specifically how sleep impacts our brain's ability to adapt to stress. Got it. Okay, I couldn't remember. Yeah. Okay. I always tell people, I think it's a doctorate in sleep, but I'm not sure. Yeah, basically. I had a doctorate in sleep in college, but it was a different degree. Sleeping in. Yes, that's right. But when was the point where you were okay, I'm on to something? Wearable devices are now everywhere. And then, I remember when Apple was hey, when there was this hint that the health app was coming in, and doctors were I remember they're showing promotional videos that doctors were going to start using it and thinking there's no way that's going to happen. And then it's happening everywhere now. But when was the point where you were wearable devices weren't even a thing, and you're it's going to go there for sure? Yeah. So I saw, we saw the trend. Usually sports and military are ahead of the curve. So if you want to pattern match different technological advances or deep tech, a lot of the best deep tech advances have come out of government funding.
But I started looking at the consumer market, and I was pattern matching what was happening in sports in the consumer market. I remember I said earlier, like, data without insight is useless, right? So I started thinking, like, we got these Apple Watches and these Fitbits and things. I wonder if people actually know how to use the data. So I started doing surveys. I actually found this paper, and they surveyed like 60,000 people and asked them, what's your number one complaint about wearable tech? And they said the data was useless. I'm like, okay, same problem, check. So I just sent out surveys to several hundred people across the United States, different universities. And I was like, what is it you want from your wearable data? Do you know what the number one response was?
I do not know.
What you asked about earlier. How can this improve my energy?
Yeah.
If I can get more energy from this wearable device, that's why I want to think about we're drinking coffee right now, or the Starbucks, or the 5-hour energy, whatever. So a buddy of mine at the University of Iowa were like, okay, let's run a pilot. Let's see if let's test this hypothesis. Can we predict somebody's energy level using Apple Watch data and something you use in the AIM-7 app called the A7 calibration? Not only could we predict somebody's energy level, we could predict their energy and mood 2 days in advance. So imagine if you had a really big meeting coming up in 2 days, what would you rearrange now so that you could be your best then? So we also were able to use some very novel machine learning methodologies and be able to say, now we know actions that people can take to mitigate these bad outcomes. And we had it externally validated by some really smart people at NC State University. That's when I was like, okay. And then I was in this thing called the Presidential Leadership Scholars, and one of the guys in there is a really successful entrepreneur, and I was like, hey man, I've got this thing and I don't know what to do with it. And I showed him the pilot, and he's like, dude, you really hit the mother load here. He's like, he wrote me a check. He's like, go build this thing. And I was like, okay. I started seeing like, this is where personalization, like right now, the data, like these wearables just show you data. They just tell you, yeah, I'm not like, I get 5.5 hours of sleep. Well, gee, thanks. Like, what do I do to feel better? So what we're doing is we're building a system that can deliver custom recommendations at scale so that you know exactly what to do each day to look, feel, and perform your best. And so that's when I knew, like, when I asked people about it, we were able to do we tested our hypothesis, and then I started looking at the market. And then recently we have an advisor that just joined our company that's the head of product for Fitbit.
Wow.
And he was like, this is remarkable. And so that's, you get certain signals. And so we're building that. And that's what people want. They want to know simply, what do I do?
Well, it's the same thing too in my world there's some people that kind of like to know the why of like, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? What's the market doing? Whatever. But at the end of the day, like the people that work with me, there's trust in me.
Yeah.
And pretty much they just want to be told, what should I do?
Yeah.
I need to do this. When,
they're busy
how?
too.
Right. Exactly.
They just want to know, like, Ryan, like I know, like, and trust you. Now tell me what to do.
Exactly. So that's kind of what you're offering to people through that. Can you give us one story, football related, a person related, it doesn't matter, but someone who kind of, you started this process out, they weren't performing to their top capacity. They leaned into what you were, you tracked, you did the data, and then you saw an increase in their performance. Do you have someone like that?
Yeah, there's a lady that uses our product. Her name is Tracy Merez-Gatos. She's a stay-at-home mom that's studying to be a registered dietitian in North Carolina. And before she started our app, she was sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night and struggled with her energy. Within a month, she was sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. And she had a lot more energy. And she gave us a quote. She goes, AIM-7 offers a no BS, straight to the point approach tailored to your body. So like, that's one person. Another guy similar to this industry, he was a product manager in Bloomington, Minnesota. And he was like, he suffered from exercise burnout. So a lot of people, when they decide, all right, I'm going to get in shape, what do? They go as hard as they can every single day until they burn out. And then that's why you see people get injured, frustrated, and just stop exercising. Well, he started using our product, and now he has like a barometer for when to push hard or when to pull back. I mean, athletes, oh my goodness. I had a linebacker at the University of Kentucky who we graded out every game. Okay, so like they get a performance grade. I think it was in the 70s. Not good, right? I mean, if you're playing Division I football, you should be, shooting for a high A, right? And he's like, Coach Korem, what do I need to do? And I'm like, we actually had started tracking sleep. This is 2015, early days.
Wow.
And I'm like, man,
what were you using, by the way?
We were using Fatigue Science. It's a really good device. The the technology came out of the United States Air Force where they want to be able to predict mental cognitive capabilities for pilots. And so they have a really cool algorithm. I love those folks. And it was a very expensive piece. Actually, Nike sponsored the project because I was on Nike's performance board at the time. So I'm like, dude, you're only sleeping like 6 hours a night. And I was like, why don't we do this? So we worked on some things to help him improve his sleep hygiene. And we gave him some small goals to slowly increase his sleep. And every week he started sleeping more and more and more. You know what happened? He started performing better and better and better in the games. Why? Because sleep is the primary time for your body and your brain to adapt and recover. It's when learning and memory consolidation occurs. You can do all this hard work, but it's not going to be cemented unless you sleep, unless you get quality sleep. And so he was able to recover and perform at his best. He was more aware, able to see the field better. Had another athlete that was really struggling with stress. And we did an early study. Dr. Chris Morris, who's on my team, he's still at University of Kentucky, did an early study with Headspace on how sleep or how mindfulness impacts cortisol. It's a stress hormone. Mm-hmm. And this guy started meditating, which is, it's, you know, for everybody out there, it's not mystical. It's not religious. You're really training attentional awareness. And if you really want to be able to focus, it's a phenomenal tool. And he had been unable to gain weight because he was always stressed out. And within, I think it was like 8 to 12 weeks, he had gained like 15 pounds.
By the way, there's probably a lot of people out there like,
good muscle.
I can't lose weight because I'm stressed out. Yes.
But there's people that have the opposite problem.
Right.
Yeah, man, I've seen so many instances of, they were working hard, doing all these things, but like they weren't creating the environment for adaptability.
Got it. I love it. All right. Real quick before we get on, every show we do a drink of choice. You choose the drink. I drink it. I'm going to give you a review on it as well, based on the genre that it is in. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So you chose, and this was my assistant sent this over. It was the Bean Here Cold Brew Cloud, no sugar in the cloud, just heavy whipped cream and Splenda. And I saw it and I was like, I have never heard of that before, but this is it.
So here's what I want you to do, Ryan. This was a nitro, by the way. So this is like a very bitter coffee. But I want you to take the top off.
All right.
And I want you to just lick the bottom of the lid just for just a second to get a little bit of the goodness.
I don't see whipped cream in here, but this sure does look like whipped cream.
It's heavy cream that they whip.
It just tastes like just like whipped cream.
Okay, so now mix it up in there.
What's the difference in this and whipped cream? The sugar? No sugar?
Yeah, they just used an alternative. And it's like, like if you want to, what is it for like an angel food cake? You whip egg whites. They just whipped heavy cream.
By the way, those of you that are just listening audio, it looks like Cool Whip on top of a cold brew coffee. Bean Here Cold Brew Cloud, no sugar in the cloud. What's no sugar in the? Oh, got it. Just whipped heavy cream. Yeah, it tastes way better on the top side of that.
Oh yeah, and then my favorite thing is when you finish it, you got all the cloud left, and you get to lick it like a dessert.
I like it. For this, I don't really drink this type of stuff, but I'm gonna give it a good 8 for that one.
I knew you were coming in with an 8.
You did?
This is good. Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna come in with an 8. This is a good one. Good.
Well done. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Next question. All right. So I'm around enough agents. I'm involved in 2 different networks. One has 30,000 agents. One has 25,000 agents across the country. I would say the majority of real estate agents, and whether you're a real estate agent or you're a heavy business professional and you're just you're in the rat race, you're working hard, you're providing for your family. But like me, as I was telling Kayla, I was like, I was explaining, are you tired when you wake up every morning? Are you going to bed late? Are you feel like you don't have any energy? What are some steps that you can continue to have a high output without burning out and continue to gain some energy?
Yeah, so I love the idea of being your best without burning out, right? And so you have to look at 2 things. What are the stressors coming in? And you have to balance that out with some type of rest and recovery.
Right.
I don't care who you are. You pile enough stress on somebody from not sleeping, from working. There's a reason why if you go to be a Green Beret, they sleep deprive you and keep you from having food because they want to see how you deal under stress. And people crack. So, you're no different than a Navy SEAL. It's like, oh, what do the Navy SEALs do? Yeah, like they beat them down and only a few survive. Like, you need to survive and be your best. So like I mentioned earlier, let's just start with sleep, okay? Sleep is your primary recovery mechanism. And 3 things happen when you sleep. Number 1, your tissues restored. Growth hormone is released, which helps recover like your muscle tissues and different tissues around the body. Number 2, and this is really important, something called the glymphatic system is activated. We found out about a decade ago that when you sleep, your brain literally flushes out metabolic waste products that are associated with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So if you don't get enough sleep, you literally have crap in your brain. And then number 3, it's when learning and memory consolidation occurs. And so the way you can improve a skill, let's say you're learning to be an agent, or there's like some type of marketing thing you're going through and you're like struggling through it. Part of that agitation is really important to the learning process. Some certain neurochemical things are happening. But when you go to sleep, neurological connections are strengthened in your brain. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to feel foggy. You're not going to be able to learn as fast. So a couple things that you can do, and I'll just start with one that you hear me talk about a lot of times, is we get dysregulated from our environment. Meaning we're indoors all the time. We barely see the sun. And if you have a hard time going to sleep at night and waking up in the morning, most likely it's because your circadian clock is not anchored on what's happening. So there's these things called Zeitgebers or time givers. We were designed to be outside. Right. And some of these, the primary ones are light, temperature, humidity, food. So when you wake up in the morning, early in the day, when the sun is low on the horizon, there's a specific quality of light. It's like a bluish hue that's in the sky. It sends a signal through your eyes, through these special cells called the melanospin retinal ganglion cells, up to something that sits on the top of your roof of your mouth. That's your circadian pacemaker. So you have a pacemaker for your heart, you have a pacemaker for your circadian clock. And that thing sends a signal to every cell in the body that it's time to wake up. And all you need to do is get about 10 minutes of good sun exposure in the morning. It also gives you a spike in cortisol, which is good. It's going to make you feel alert. It's also going to set off a clock in your brain 12 to 15 hours later to increase melatonin. This is like the simple, like I hate to use the word hacks because hacks, This is like a science-backed tool that can change your life. And so literally get up in the morning and go outside.
That's it. 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Do that for a week and you will see a difference in your ability to be alert. And then during the day, frequently just go outside for a little bit, get a little bit of sunlight exposure because you're anchoring where your body is. One of the things we baked into our AIM 7 app is this little push notification to remind people to do it. Whenever the sun comes up, it sends you a little notification, sends you this picture of the sun. And that has like literally changed people's lives. Very simple.
And then at night?
And at night, if you can, circa 90 minutes of sunset, just go out, see the sun a little bit. It will improve your energy level. But that also sets the conditions, part of the conditions for sleep. Because people are like, I know I need to sleep, but I don't feel like going to sleep. This will help that process.
And then obviously I'm assuming, just because I've heard you tell me this before, like I will, I've started doing the circadian stuff and all that, is really cold.
Your room?
Room. Keep it cold. That's been helpful for me.
Like a cave.
Yes, like the cave. And then the devices. That's a huge thing, is putting those down. Yeah. And what's funny is I feel like sometimes like I don't feel like I can go to sleep. I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of people, my wife does this if she's listening, whatever, but she uses it to help her go to sleep. But for her, it's more making her mind rest because she plays a game on it. She's actually not doing social media and things like that. But for me, like I'm finishing up work on the day, but I have noticed if I just put my phone down, like 10 minutes, I'm gone.
Yeah, as long as the biggest issue isn't just the light from the phone, because people are like blue light blocking glasses. It's emotion. It's mentally stimulating.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're down a rabbit hole. And you
so definitely not watching TV and not engaging your mind in any form or fashion.
You want to start winding it down. So maybe
how soon before you fall asleep?
I would say at least 30 minutes. An hour would be ideal to kind of, with kids in a real life, give yourself 30 minutes. Go take a hot shower or bath. Do something. Don't drink alcohol. We can talk about that.
Do you hear that, agents?
Yeah. Alcohol will make you fall asleep faster, but it will literally inhibit you from getting good quality sleep. So yeah, come up with a sleep routine. There's a lot of things we could talk about. I don't want to spend all the time on that.
So
That's
sleep,
a big one.
what's next?
I would say exercise, regular exercise. The World Health Organization says 150 minutes a week plus 2 total body strengthening sessions. Exercise improves physical and mental resilience to stress. It doesn't matter what it is, but you need to get your heart rate up above a certain threshold, at least into the zone 2 range. And there's this thing called zone 2. Now zone 2, there's 5 zones. It's around 60 to 75% max heart rate. It's a wonderful zone for exercise because not only does it help increase the quality, it helps with the cardiac health, but it also helps you shift along this continuum of stress and relaxation. And so you need to have some rhythm of exercise in your life. If you struggle with that, maybe you're only doing 60 minutes a week, maybe just add 20 to 30 minutes each week until you can get up there. You will feel better. You will perform better. The third thing is nutrition.
Pause real quick.
Yeah.
One thing that I was amazed when we started talking was, and there's a lot of people out there I know that, get trainers. They just go hard all week with workout as well. When you met with me, you're like, I think you're doing too much intense workout. So that's a thing too, right?
Yeah. First of all, you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. There's people that wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to go work out and then they're miserable and they don't get enough sleep. So they're exercising, but to the detriment of their health. The other thing too is in one of the right now, one of the big things that we offer in AIM 7 is not every day needs to be a max effort.
Right.
And so we use something called fluid periodization. It's something that we actually did the foundational research at the University of Kentucky that shows that if you just have a plan, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to go do this. Yep. If you use a plan that adjusts based off of how your body's adapting to stress, that will significantly outperform the other one. You'll get better results faster. We had a lady that was working at a very big boutique fitness chain, and she would go in and crush herself. And she was like, all right, I got this email. For a month, I'm just going to follow your recommendations. She had stalled out on her weight loss. She didn't change a thing, but used our recommendations, lost 3 pounds that month.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And did less work.
Most of the time, even in our research paper, the guys that 50% of the team did it, they had 150 to 500% more improvement over their counterparts. And the common denominator was 10% less work.
Wow.
So, but here's the deal. Some days when your body is really ready for adaptation, we have a way of measuring that. It's at the front of the app. Those are the days to work harder, to bust your butt at work, to get an extra hard session in. And the days that it's dialed back, one of the things that we want to do is do what I did for you, is when we're working on building some algorithms, we'll be able to pattern out your week. And after about 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be like, hey, these are the days where you are consistently your best. Try to shift your schedule to your hardest work.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Days. Yeah.
And that would be, that'd be great for our friends. And so you got sleep, exercise,
nutrition. I want to hone in on this next one because nutrition we could talk about for a while.
Right.
Psychological flexibility.
Okay.
What does that mean? It means it's the ability to be aware of the present moment and then to be able to take actions based off of your values. So life is difficult. And when, a lot of emotion can enter the equation. People think, I need to build confidence. No. You actually don't want to. Confidence isn't the thing you need to build. You need to understand how to deal with negative emotions when they come up. When you have to go in and you're having to meet with that client, you're like, I got to close this thing. And you're all wound up and tight. If you can be aware of where your mind is in the moment and then learn how to take actions based off of either your values or predetermined steps of action, now you have psychological flexibility to be your best when it matters most. Because there is this myth that the best in the world do not experience negative emotions. And there was a guy named Sir Chris Hoy, the greatest Olympic cyclist of all time. I think he won 8 or 10 Olympic gold medals. And what he said was, he described what it was like to race in an Olympic finals. He said it felt like he was going to the gallows. Like he was being executed.
Wow.
But what he said that was how much pressure there was, but he would then shift his attention to the tactile sensation of his hands on the steering wheel or his feet in the clips. He was able to bring his mind to present moment awareness and then take action. So that's the third thing. Like if you want to be adaptable and be your best, you need to be able to be aware of where your mind is in the moment. And then the last thing I really want to highlight here is community. We are designed for community. There was an interesting study, I think it was a British Journal of Psychology, that showed that people during the pandemic, when things were shut down in the UK specifically, that had engagement in the community, had less stress, had better mental affect. When you engage with people in a deliberate way, you are more resilient as a human being.
Yeah.
So although you're grinding on your business and all that kind of stuff, you need to have authentic human interaction and relationship. You will live longer, you will thrive. And that takes deliberate action. And I think, Ryan, you do a really good job of this, of connecting with people in the community that are your friends. And I think sometimes you got to go like, I got like, who are your Friday night friends? Or who are some people that you can just kick back and really be authentic with and share your emotions and your feelings, and maybe things aren't good and you can pick up the phone. You're not Superwoman or Superman.
Well, and I do think, for me, when I'm really enjoying my job, it's when I'm working with the people that are in my community, and it's not a transaction. It's just a process, and I'm getting to do it with people I enjoy. When it becomes hard is when I turn to more, and a lot of agents do this where they turn more just to a transaction mindset, because every transaction ends in dollars, but it's not, when you're just doing it for transaction, there's not much of a why in that. But they bring so much, you're right. They bring so much satisfaction when it's people and you're able to enjoy the process through it.
No, that's really good. Transactional versus like relational.
Right.
And you're a master at that. And I think that's why you've built such a wonderful business here, is because when people engage with you, they feel like Ryan really cares about me. And of course you want to tell your friends, right?
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. All right. Last question. AIM7 app. So you've given us some great tips. Tell us really briefly about the AIM7 app, and if someone was interested in maybe taking that next step of potentially using this to help them with their performance, what is it and how does it work?
Yeah, so AIM7 uses your wearable technology data. Right now, we deliver custom exercise recommendations that layer on top of popular exercise content. We don't make programs. We make whatever you do 10x better. You like your Peloton, your F45, you lift weights, you do HIIT, whatever. We will tell you the exact prescription, how hard and how long you should go to each day. Then what we do is after 21 days, we analyze your data and we're like, hey, here's your number one limiting factor. Could be sleep, could be stress. And then we pick up where wearables fail. See, wearables can't tell you like what to fix because they don't even ask you certain things like how you're feeling. They don't connect all the dots. And then they just point out what's wrong, but they don't tell you how to fix it. So we actually deliver world-class content and features that actually help you fix your most pressing wellness issues. And so if you are interested in signing up for AIM7, it's in beta right now. It's free. You can sign up at aim7.com. In September, we're going to be rolling out a new upgraded version of the app. We've had some wonderful stories that have come out of this, people that have lost weight, people that have we teach psychological flexibility in the app. We have people that have just like really transformed their lives by identifying their values and learning how to take action on it. So there's a lot of things that the whole idea is to help you be more resilient and more adaptable so you can pursue audacious goals and thrive in uncertainty. But we start with exercise and then we go from there. So aim7.com is how you can sign up.
Wearable technologies you guys are compatible with?
Right now, the Apple Watch is end-to-end integrated. Garmin will be in next month, then the Oura Ring, and Fitbit and Samsung after that. So in the next 3 months, we'll have Garmin and Oura put in. But here's the deal. Just if you're interested at all, sign up, and then we'll shoot you an email when it's available.
Sweet. Yeah, so if you haven't checked that out, if you haven't yet, aim7.com. Also, Erik has a phenomenal podcast, The Blueprint, which is on Apple, Spotify.
Every platform.
Everywhere. So, and he's got some great guests that are on there. Dana Perino, Katie Wells, Dr. Andy Galpin. Just some killers guys that you need to listen to. So check that out. To find him on kind of via social world, Erik Korem, ErikKorem on Instagram. He's on Twitter, same profile, and LinkedIn. You can find him. All right, Erik, it's time for this episode to to end, but before we do that, we're going to do my rapid fire.
Let's do it.
So rapid fire is one-word answers and fast as we can go through them.
Okay,
ready?
let's go.
Favorite month?
November.
Favorite season?
Fall.
Favorite animal?
Bear.
Favorite dessert?
Oh my gosh. Anything chocolate and peanut butter.
Favorite breakfast?
The big brekkie in Australia.
Name an onomatopoeia.
I don't know.
You don't know an onomatopoeia?
I know I'm supposed to know this.
Bang. Favorite store?
Like what kind of store? Any store?
Any store.
Shoot. Like Academy, I guess. I don't know.
Describe your style in one word.
Authentic.
What were you afraid of as a child?
Cleaning the toilets in the back of the house where it was dark.
Did you ever have a nickname?
Yeah, Biggie or Coach K when I was coaching.
How often do you floss?
Like probably 3 times a day.
I could see that. Is your bed made right now?
Yes.
What dish do you cook best?
Oh my goodness. Well, according to the barbecue at your house, it was a pork chop, but I would say, I don't know, something in that spectrum.
The smoking realm?
The smoking realm.
Who's your favorite Disney character?
I'm not really big into Disney right now. Mickey Mouse, I guess.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Can you freestyle rap?
Ish. I actually have done some karaoke.
Oh my gosh, I get a sample of that. Do you like to shop for clothes?
Yeah, when I have money. Expendable money I'm not putting on my kids. But yeah.
What was the cringiest thing you ever did as a teenager? These can be more than one word.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think I asked the wrong girls out.
What is your... Here, this is very interesting. What was your last Google search?
Oh, my goodness. I think it was about... Oh, I just recently searched what the health and wellness market did in the 2008 Great Recession.
It was what?
What happened during the Great Recession of 2008?
Okay.
How did the health and wellness market, how did it do? And it actually like kaboom during that time.
All right, I've got 2 questions left. What world record do you think you could possibly have a shot of breaking?
What world?
If there was one.
You know, there's this thing on Instagram right now where people are talking about blinking on beat.
Yep.
I think I could do that for quite a while.
I like it. That's great. All right. Last question. I always ask this question. Money is no object.
Yeah.
Time, don't worry about time. You get one day. You can do whatever you want to do. Money's no object. If you want to go somewhere, you can be there tomorrow. Okay. Where would you go? What would you do?
I would take my wife to like, does travel time included in
no,
this?
you can be there tomorrow. You wake up tomorrow. It doesn't count. Travel time's not included.
You know, like I don't know if it's Fiji or like you ever seen those like little hut type things on the water and like the most beautiful pristine environment.
Yeah.
It's probably Fiji or something like that. Bora Bora, whatever. I would take my wife there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Eric, it's been a pleasure. Eric's been a great friend to me and my family, and wonderfully to have you here, and thanks for your education and knowledge on this. Thank you, listeners, for joining. Please make sure and take a moment if you're watching video to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're on audio, make sure to leave us a great review. Eric, thank you. And we will see you next time, friends, on the Ryan and Real Estate Podcast.